All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to completely dismantle the way you think about high-performance environments. I mean, most of us were taught that a team's culture is all about, those cheesy motivational posters slapped on the locker room wall, or some coach screaming a pregame speech. But what if I told you that true culture isn't something you read at all? It's something you feel. Today, we're unpacking the MPSS cultural architecture. We're going to look at team culture not as a generic list of core values, but as an invisible, living nervous system, an architecture that dictates exactly how a team responds when the heat is turned way, way up. To really wrap our heads around this, I want you to picture something with me. Put yourself right on the edge of a sweaty, insanely tense volleyball court. It's late in a crucial match. The home team just dropped 3 points in a row. The scoreboard is tied, sweat is beating up, the gym is deafening, and the crowd is getting super restless. The whole system feels like it's right on the absolute edge, just about to tip over into total chaos. So, what happens next? Because in this exact split second, the team's true culture is going to reveal itself. A catchy slogan isn't going to save them here. It's going to be whatever automatic habits they've physically built for handling this exact kind of stress. Now, what's really interesting about this is imagine we have an X-ray and we're looking straight down through the floorboards of that court. On the top visible layer, we see what people usually assume culture is: the sheer effort, the high fives, the body language, the coach clapping on the sideline. But honestly, that's just visible activity. Look underneath. This is the MPSS layer. Beneath those floorboards is a flowing, interconnected system of emotional regulation, attentional direction, and nervous system contagion. This hidden engine is what actually runs the show. It determines if those high fives actually mean anything or if they're literally just empty noise. So what are we actually looking at here? Well, according to Flow MPS, team culture is an invisible emotional nervous system. Think about it. You don't consciously tell your heart to beat faster when you get scared, right? It just happens. A team has automatic patterns too. Culture is simply that set of physiological and emotional patterns athletes instinctively fall back on when the game speeds up, bad calls happen, and control completely slips out of their hands. And the ultimate catalyst that activates this entire hidden nervous system? It's one simple thing: pressure. Imagine dropping that word straight into the center of the court. Pressure isn't just some abstract concept. It acts like a literal electrical shockwave sent ripping through the entire team. A missed serve at match point, a terrible call by the ref, a sudden momentum shift. Boom. Once that shock hits the floor, that energy has to go somewhere, and it forces the team down one of two very distinct pathways. Let's trace the first fork in the road, the dysregulated pathway. When the shockwave of pressure hits a weak culture, man, things happen fast. First comes panic. Attention violently narrows down to a pinhole. Communication sharpens. It gets frantic. Coaches are yelling quick fixes. Teammates start barking at each other. Bodies physically tighten up, shoulders practically rising to their ears. And because that tension just sits there and lingers, mistakes spread like a virus. One misdig turns into a botched set, which turns into an attack out of bounds. The players spiral. Performance completely destabilizes. They are trapped in their own dysregulated nervous system.
But then we have the second pathway. And this brilliantly illustrates the alternative. When the exact same pressure hits a healthy team, the immediate response isn't panic. It's a pause. They absorb the mistake, they execute a quick reset, and because of that crucial pause, their attention stabilizes. The relational connection between the players and the coach, it stays totally intact. They physically shake out the tension, which means their recovery accelerates. Ultimately, even though the pressure is incredibly high, their performance remains entirely organized and grounded.
So the big question is, how do you guarantee your team takes that regulated pathway? Actually, scratch that. You can't just guarantee it with a speech. You have to literally embed specific functional safety valves, what we call nodes, directly into the physical geography of your environment. There are 5 of these embedded nodes that make up a healthy cultural architecture. Let's map them out right on the court. We'll start dead center with node 1, the team huddle. The rule here is simple but profound: regulation before reaction. When the system feels like it's about to tip, someone, maybe a captain, a coach, even a bench player, steps in to just slow things down. They literally say, "Breathe. We're okay. Next ball." In that tiny pause, before any technical correction is ever shouted, regulation becomes contagious. The whole group steadies their breathing, heart rates drop. They regulate the emotion before they react to the error. Moving over to the service line, we find node 2, the athlete reset routine, also known as adaptive re-engagement. Listen, pressure is always going to create disruption, But resilience means having a highly organized return. Watch an athlete in a healthy culture after they miss a serve. They don't sulk. You'll actually see them physically shake the tension out of their arms, take a deep breath, and murmur, "Next job." They're actively choosing to adapt and re-engage, grounding their psychology right back into physical reality. Let's move on and see how this builds with Node 3, the court attention beam. Under stress, the human mind desperately wants to time travel, right? We worry about the last error, or we try to predict the next disaster. Healthy teams embed an anchor to stop this. You might hear a libero forcefully call out, "Stay here," or a coach calmly say, "Same rhythm." These aren't just hype phrases. They're actual lifelines, beaming the team's attention right back to the present moment, restoring their access to their physical skills. Now glance over at the sideline for Node 4, connection before correction. This is absolutely crucial. Every time a coach opens their mouth under pressure, they're sending two distinct signals: the technical instruction and the emotional tone underneath it. If a coach is turning purple and panicking, the athletes absorb the panic, not the tactic. But a grounded coach, they preserve relational safety. The players' shoulders stay relaxed, making them feel safe enough to actually absorb the feedback instead of just freezing up. And finally, Note 5 focuses on an athlete recovering during the actual flow of play, purposeful effort. We so often confuse effort with visible strain, right, or just frantic noise. But in a high-functioning culture, true effort is the quiet, determined choice to settle down after an error, re-engage, and get ready for the very next job without flogging yourself for the mistake. It's about sustainable, organized engagement over the long haul. When you zoom out and look at these 5 nodes living across the environment, something really profound clicks into place. Culture isn't a singular event or a meeting. It is an automated architecture built through the sum of thousands of micro moments. It's that specific look a teammate gives after a tough swing. It's the consistent routine walking out of a timeout. By repeating these embedded nodes over and over in practice, the emotional responses just become automatic. The team stops performing the culture, they just start living it. And really, what is the big why behind all of this? Flow MPSS hits the nail on the head here. The season will eventually end, and the scoreboard, it'll fade. But the adaptable nervous system patterns these athletes build, the ability to steady themselves, recover from a mistake, and stay deeply connected under intense pressure, those become a permanent part of who they are for the rest of their lives. So the crucial takeaway we're landing on is this. Under pressure, teams absolutely do not rise to slogans. They fall toward the emotional patterns the environment repeatedly trains. If you want a resilient team, you have to look beneath the floorboards and intentionally design the emotional architecture of your space. It leaves us with a pretty wild question to ask about our own teams or even our workplaces. When the shockwave of pressure hits your system today, what automatic patterns will your environment fall back on? Think about that. Thanks so much for joining me on today's Explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.